Good morning, everyone. Penny Stewart here from the Gananoque Horticultural Society. Just going to go through a few fun things we can do in the fall. Fall is in the garden now. Things are starting to look a little bit tired. Most of my planters are at that point where we haven't got frost on them yet, but they're looking pretty ratty. So, what can we do to maybe spruce up a few planters around the front door? Take your ratty planter, pull everything out. You end up with a pot with the soil in, disturb it a little bit, enough that you can work in it, and we're going to add things to it to make it a bit more colorful for the fall. There's a couple styles of planters. One, the cheap and cheerful version, is find things in your garden that are a bit frost tolerant. Heuchera is an example, so we're going to use some heuchera. These are garden mums designed to be a perennial to come back every year. These are commercial mums. Your chances of getting them to rebloom if you plant them in the garden are almost impossible. If you want mums in your garden, you are best to buy specific garden mums. Everything that comes out this time of year at Loblaws and No Frills and every place else are commercial mums which are grown in greenhouses specifically for blooming for a month and then finishing off. This is a garden mum that I picked up at Made in the Shade. It is designed to come back, so it's called a fall mum, chrysanthemum mammoth, and this one's lavender daisy. They're a little looser than the commercial mums, but once this planter is finished, I'm going to take the plants back out of it. The ground won't be frozen until November, and pop them back in the garden. So really, you get 2 for 1. You get a nice fall planter, and then you get stuff next year coming back. So the idea is just to create something where there's some color. The garden mum being the bigger one. Now I've let these dry out a bit so that I don't have a ton of dirt here. Oh, there's a little woolly caterpillar going to join us. Take a little bit of the dirt away just so you can work. And once we've planted this, we are going to make sure that we thoroughly water. So we're going to go in the mum on one side, push it down pretty good, a little bit of soil around it, you know, keeping in mind this is only going to be for a month, but the idea is some color. This is a lime rookie heuchera. I nipped out of the garden. It'll go back in the garden when I'm finished. If you're planting close to your house, where it isn't too frosty, you can get away with a hosta. This is Guinevere, one that I don't have. Again, just loosen a bit of the soil up, just like you would if you were planting it in the garden. Just gives you a little bit more room in the pot. And we're going to tuck Guinevere in back here. Stuff it in, back it down, a little bit of soil around it. So, we've got a couple nice shades of greens. We got some nice purple. What else can we add to this just to give it a little more color? Temporary. You go down to the ditch. These are free. Just wear your wellies. Although the ditch is a little bit dry this year. I managed to stop with just my Birks on and get them without getting wet feet. So it's like doing a flower design, really. You want some color and interest. You want some contrast in shapes. You want a little bit of height. These hostas are nice. What else is along the roadside? Lots. little bit of teasel. And if you like, you can always toss a little bit of gold spray paint on the teasel beforehand. And then when you take it out of this pot, you save it for the Christmas pots. This is the same theory that we use for doing Christmas pots, only with Christmas pots we're not using live material, obviously, because it's a little too cold. My hydrangeas. I went out and harvested a few of them about a week ago, put them in the garage. They're almost dry. That's going to pick up a little bit of color there. So, that's out of the garden, cost us nothing. You can add a little bit of fall color with a few pumpkins or gourds. I picked these up the other day, so there we go. This is going at your back door. You're all set. Voila. I'm going to pop this into my urn over here, which definitely is looking very tired. I think I can recycle my tool from the summer. Pop my urn in, put the tool around it, and there you go, fall color. And again, all stuff out of your garden, so fairly inexpensive. Secondly, we'll take another planter. This poor old thing had petunias in that have seen better days. This is my sedum out of my garden that just grows on the ground. If you plant it in planters and let it go all summer, it does this beautiful cascade. It's a wonderful, inexpensive filler. I've got it in all my planters this year. This is Dusty Miller. Just left Dusty as is, because Dusty will dry. As a matter of fact, you can leave Dusty in for Christmas arrangements as well. Okay, what have we got we can add in here? I've gone around the garden and pulled out a few things I had planted, like marigolds, a few of my cabbage. I did splurge and pick up a pepper plant at the grocery store. And we have pumpkins, apples, all kinds of stuff you can add. And again, just going to dig a little hole in the existing planter. Add your materials. There's some nice bright yellow color. Marigolds are pretty sturdy. They seem to take a fair amount of frost. So portulaca will take a little bit of frost. The peppers, I think the peppers will be fine. I'm not sure the greenery if we got a heavy frost, but again, I'm going to be tucking this under an eave at a doorway, so you're not going to get a killing frost for a while right up to your back door. So we won't worry about that. So there's some kale, which I started late, didn't get going very well, so it's nothing to write home about. Here's a little more Dusty Miller. We'll repeat the gray in here. So once the frost hits these, I'll basically take everything out and toss it out. Either take the soil out or hold on to the soil for a while, depending on whether I'm going to do a Christmas arrangement with this one. Apples. Everybody's got apples. These will keep for quite a while. Dollar store, I guess they're barbecue skewers. Nothing like a bright, cheery apple. Just push it in, just to give you a little bit of color. Now, if you have squirrels, I'm not sure how long the apples will last. They may go for a walkabout. Pumpkins. I saw a cute idea from Country Living. in their magazine and online of easy ways to do pumpkins up. This is just dollar store craft tape. You decorate your pumpkin, gives it a little bit of glitz, and then we're going to tuck a little pumpkin in here with a little glitz to it. Now, if you want to get real fancy, make it look gussied up. Let's say this is for Thanksgiving dinner and you want the porch to look a little bit special, and we can add a ribbon. I'm just going to take another little piece of this to tie around it. We add a ribbon to it. So it doesn't take too much to dress up any planter and give it that little bit of extra curb appeal. Again, our barbecue skewers are the perfect thing to tie your ribbon onto. And then we'll just tuck a little ribbon back in there. And there we go. So, relatively inexpensive. You might have to buy a pumpkin and a little bit of stuff on sale at the dollar store and a couple of apples. And there you have a nice planter to put by your back door. Lots of fun. Third example I'm going to do, this is my planter from the back door, which seen better days, but a little touch up of spray paint and you can buy at least one more season out of it. I've loosened up the soil, taken everything out that was growing in here. First thing I'm going to add is a jam jar full of water with a lid. And I'm going to just dig a hole, put the jam jar in, sort of a bit off center. There we go. This is going to be an example of plants and fresh flowers, which we see in our flower show schedule sometimes. This is just an outdoor version. So back to my buckets of goodies back here. This is a stone crop sedum. So this is one that's going to go back out in my garden when I'm finished. I'm just going to give it a quick cut here. It's a little bit bigger than what I need. So 1/2 of that, when we're finished, will go out into my rockery. The other half is just going to go into the front here to give us some of that nice fall color that the various sedums give us. This is a nice low growing one. You could also, if you had autumn joy or something, smaller plants, pick them up and use them. This is another chrysanthemum. Nice bronze one. Make sure you can still find your jam jar when you're finished. I'm going to take a little extra dirt out of here. Add my chrysanthemum back with my sedum in front of it. Tuck it all in. I'm going to leave room here for one of my glitzy pumpkins. This is something that would be fun with kids and grandkids, is using stickers, stick-on things onto pumpkins that don't require carving. They're a little safer, so there's lots of fun things that you can do with them. Little white pumpkins. I think the little white pumpkins are absolutely precious. There we go. So we still have our jam jar back here, and we're going to go back to, what do we have in the garden. Good old hydrangea. You can count on hydrangea for color, volume, shape, both when it's fresh or when it's dried. And they do keep quite nicely. Use them a lot in Christmas arrangements. This is a little bit of grass out of my front garden. It's going to dry nicely, so I'm not going to worry too much about it. I'm just going to wrap a little piece of the grass around it, enough to allow me to snug it in. And it just is giving me a little bit of height. So there's our planter. We've got a little gap where our jam jar is. I'm going to take the pumpkin back out so we can get at the jam jar. Open the lid. It's already full of water. And we're going to add some fresh flowers. Flower of choice is one of the few things I still have blooming in the garden, is good old Rudbeckia triloba, which I think this time of year gives you an incredible pop of color. With the jam jar in there, you can put flowers in fresh, and you can replace them. You can replenish them. This is another lovely freebie. Good old goldenrod. This is the round version as opposed to the longer version. You do see this on the roadsides in spots. It's not as common. So it's going to give us a little bit more gold there. We've got our pumpkin. I think our pumpkin could be propped up a bit. So I'm going to use a gourd. Sorry, Mr. Gourd. There we go. Mr. Gourd's going to prop the pumpkin up. I've got a little space in the back here. Still room to tuck some drieds. All kinds of assorted drieds you might have in your gardens. They all work. You just tuck them in. And then that will go on my back door as folks are coming in. Other things you can use, someone donated to me a whole series of fake pumpkins, which won't rot. That's the advantage. The one thing about real pumpkins, remember that outside they're still only good for about 3 weeks. So if you have a concern you don't want them rotting, then you can also always go to some version of fake pumpkins of any size or shape. So there's 3 examples of planters that relatively inexpensive, fun to do, brighten up your back doorstep. It buys us a few more weeks until things we know are going to get cold. But when it gets real cold, we'll just come back and we'll redo these with a holiday theme. Thank you for watching.